Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menashe. Today's another AMA episode, that is, Ask Me Anything. I love to answer your questions, and if you have a question you think is going to be of broad interest, send it in. I'll answer it live on the air. Send your questions to victor@victorjm.com. That's victor@victorjm.com. Today's question comes from David in Belize. He says, I love the show and thanks again for all the work you put into it. We always hear, if you see a problem, then find a solution. Well, I see a problem in Ambergris Caye Belize in parking. We could help the downtown area since there's always no parking and streets are very congested. We would have challenges as to locate a lot. The lot, if we found one, would be around 50 feet by 70 feet. The garage would be for golf carts and we could do 4 or 5 floors. We could do concrete, steel, or a combination. I would want an elevator or 2 and maybe 2 entrances and exits. Staffing would require 2 people on 2 shifts, so maybe a total of 5 staff, plus maybe a maintenance person. I feel we would get a lot of long-term workers paying, as well as tourist traffic. The other challenge is the hourly or daily fee. I see some parking lots charge $25 a day. The airport charges $2 just to go in and out, and $25 a day as well. We need to do some more research, but there's no garages here, and then just empty lots where they rent spaces out in Belize City and places like that. I was wondering where your thoughts are on syndicating a parking garage. The payback would be a little bit long. I estimate we might get 100 spaces on 5 floors. After setbacks and drive paths, it might cost $800,000 or $1 million to build. At $12.50 per day average, it seems like the numbers would work at 50% occupancy. Would love to get your thoughts. Well, David, thank you for the kind words, and this is a great question. I've been to San Pedro and Belize, and I know exactly the parking problem you're speaking about. It's a dense area, and there's very little parking. There are narrow streets packed with small shops, lots of pedestrian traffic competing with golf carts for a clear lane. The town has lots of character, even if it seems a little chaotic at times. Parking is one of those real estate plays that's not very sexy, but it can be a great investment. In fact, one of the largest companies in France, called Vinci Park, made its wealth globally by investing in parking lots all over the world. The problem with parking lots is that when many of the transactions are done in cash, for whatever reason, cash has a tendency to go missing and not be fully accounted for. If you have a parking lot attendant who's handling a lot of cash and they're only earning a few dollars an hour, the temptation is simply too great for them to pocket some of the extra change. Even if you make the parking lot attendant a partner in the business, they could still steal from you. In tropical locations like Belize, you could experiment with electronic payments exclusively, but I don't know if that would be a barrier to adoption. It would probably work with tourists who regularly carry credit cards, but the locals may choose not to use it. I would test market your idea on a limited basis with an existing ground-level parking lot. Structured parking, as you point out, is expensive, and you need to gain some operational experience in the local market to determine whether your idea will work. That will make for a much more compelling value proposition when it comes time to raise the capital for construction. Part of the economic model is to determine the cost of land compared with the cost of construction. After all, you're in a high-salt environment next to the beach. You need to protect the structural steel that's embedded in the concrete. So asphalt sealers are going to be required to coat all of the exposed surfaces of the concrete. Let's imagine that the concrete structured parking, complete with asphalt sealers, is going to cost you, say, $160 a square foot to build. I don't know exactly how much because I don't remember seeing any local concrete plants on the island. Transportation costs for the materials could be high and make the cost of the concrete or structural steel higher than it would be on the mainland. I don't know the cost of land, but let's imagine for a moment that land could be purchased at, say, $80 per square foot. Then it doesn't make sense to build structured parking. But if the land costs you, say, $300 a square foot, then the parking structure starts to look like a relative bargain. Finding the right location for parking can be a challenge. Sometimes you might find an old building that's condemned or functionally obsolete. Parking could be a very viable temporary investment. You could buy the derelict building, demolish it, build a temporary parking lot for a year or 2 while the developer who will ultimately develop that location gets their plans and financing together. You may be able to propose a deal with a local developer to operate that vacant lot as a parking lot on their behalf in order to gain experience firsthand with managing a parking operation on the island. This is one of those local operating businesses that's going to require you to get experience in order to determine whether it's truly a viable idea in that location. So my suggestion would be to run an experiment first before committing a major investment. I want to thank you, David, for an awesome question. And for the listeners at home, have a great rest of your day. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.